Okay, I'm the last item on the menu. I think it's too late to say I'm the appetizer. More like the Pousse Cafe in a French restaurant. So I'm going to keep this brief. I'm going to talk about literary publishing, which is different than academic publishing because it's more fun. And you can basically get away with anything as long as you write about it skillfully. Uh, but I'll tell you a little bit about my activities in it, and maybe more importantly, if you're interested in it, how you might start. So why bother? Well, I would skip the first one. A few people get rich from writing, but the minority. Most of it do it for the pleasure of it. Part of the reason I work in the college system is I tried to make a living as a poet, and it didn't work. Certainly expressing yourself, getting your particular insights and feelings out there to the world. If you've got a story, a life story or another kind of story. When our previous vice president academic, Vicky Bassoon-Death, retired from the college, she almost immediately produced a novel which is based in part on her youth growing up in South Africa as a racialized person. So she took her own story and worked it into fiction and got it published. It improves your writing of all kinds. I find writing is a really important tool for teachers because we write curriculum, we write assignments, we may write blogs or other forms of informal academic publishing, and the more skill you acquire in writing, the easier it is to get to do that. And you make new friends and sometimes even fans doing it. Okay, I thought it'd be interesting to research what are the top-selling genres in books. It used to be self-help and things like dieting, you write one of those, you could sell it bang. Cookbooks were very big, but this was 10 years ago, and now these are the top genres. Romance and erotica is number one, so if you've got one of those sitting in your drawer and it just needs a few more whips and handcuffs in it, get it out and start touching it up. Crime and mystery, religion and inspiration. You might remember books like the Celestine Prophecies or Paulo Coelho's work sell extremely well. Science fiction and fantasy is big, and of course, since the Lord of the Rings movie series became so popular, and now various TV shows and so on. And finally, horror, believe it or not. Here's a couple of quotes about current trends in the field. I find the last one interesting. I had no idea that the ebook market was so big. I'm not talking here about selling the actual ebooks, but what kinds of writing get bought on them and how big a market it is. So for publishers of regular books, this is an important source of revenue. And by the way, without ever having your book formally published, you can write a book and get it listed on Amazon, and people can download and pay for it that way without you ever going through a publisher. And lots of people do that. Okay, so a writer's life in 2 minutes. In high school, I started writing poetry because I wasn't good at anything else. And my first book was called A Turd's Eye View. I've grown up since then, I hope a little bit. But it sold out, 50 copies of a mimeograph book. And then I wrote another one, self-published it, did the same thing. In college, I started hanging out with other writers and working on a little literary magazine there. And I worked at Coach House Press as a summer job. Got my first book published there because my sister was one of the people running the presses, so they couldn't say no to her. And since then, I published 4 other books of poetry. I brought samples, and if you want to look at them on the way out, they're on the low table up here. I've now written a novel, which is coming out in May or June. Was it easy to get them published? Not always. Sometimes I would circulate a manuscript for years, and sometimes I'd get turned down, but then the publisher would recommend me for a grant, which I always wondered about. Like, I'm not good enough to get published, but I'm good enough to get money. But I took the money anyway. I mean, what are you going to do? And I started my own micropress, which means I produce very small books called chapbooks. They're about yay big. I put them together using Microsoft Word or Publisher, a program like that. Print out masters, then give it to a printer who prints them up and staples them, does a color cover for like 50 copies, maybe $300, and then I sell them at readings or give them away, usually make my money back, and I publish some by other people. But I don't list myself broadly doing this because I don't want to deal with thousands of unsolicited manuscripts that I don't want to publish and I have to send back or anything. So I only do it when I've sort of picked a writer, including picking myself sometimes. Okay, I think the most important thing, if you're really going to, many of you I think have maybe got some poems or half a novel sitting somewhere. Anyone in that category? Secret writing? Well, you can get it out there, you can get it published, but the most important thing is not give up. Look at this, 121 rejections. Mostly because the book didn't fit a pigeonhole. It was part biography, part philosophy, part fiction, part a book about teaching writing, part a book about fixing motorcycles. When publishers looked at that, they thought, nobody's going to buy this book. But they were wrong. So that's the end of the slideshow. So my basic message to you is if you're interested in doing this, the usual way to proceed is you start out by sending it out to literary magazines, and there are lots of online zines these days. Get some acceptances, start to build, and keep a list of everywhere it's been published or accepted, obviously. When you've got a few of those, start to put together a book-length manuscript of whatever it is you're writing. Then go to publishers, look for publishers that produce the kind of work you're writing, send them a proposal letter and a sample and a list of your acceptances. They'll want to see that someone else thought your work was worth reading. And don't give up. Keep doing it. Eventually, you'll get lucky. Some people who are new to writing say, do I need an agent? Well, you won't be able to get an agent, not at the beginning, because they make their money as a percentage of your sales, right? So if you're an unknown writer, you're not going to get an agent. You have to represent yourself. You can self-publish too. You can create a little press, start putting out books yourself. The main issue is you have to do the distribution and promotion and publicity yourself, which is some of the things professional publishers do. So you really need to take some of Aaron's courses and learn about social media. You need to push your books on Twitter. You need to have a website. You need to have Facebook events whenever you do a reading and start to build a fan base. But you can do it. And if you believe in your writing and you do want people to read it, that's the way to get to do it. So thank you. That's all I've got to say. If any of you have questions, you're welcome to talk to me afterwards or, contact me at Colt or something. I know we're running short of time. Are we still going to do the discussion? Yeah, I think we probably run out of time here. So what we wanted to do was give you a smorgasbord of ways of getting your writing out there, your writing, your research, your cultural activity, and disseminating it. I hope we succeeded at that, and I hope the next time we do this, we don't have as many technical issues. We do have a little feedback form that Marilyn mentioned. We'd love to get your opinions of this and suggestions for future ones, and I think Marilyn wants to say something.